Let me introduce our speakers here, the panelists. Welcome. So we've got Yogesh Malik from Tele2, Anania Mesfin from Ethio Telecom, Ankush Saikia from Sri UK, and Sandeep Raithatha, who just presented earlier from Virgin Media O2 Business. So welcome all panelists. First of all, start with, I'm Andreas, Olah, I'm an analyst at Omdia. You've probably heard of us, we're part of Informa, so I'm cover service provider strategies with technologies including 5G, but also IoT Edge and others, all from a provider perspective, not just telcos, but also the whole ecosystem. And for this panel, we'll be covering a mix of topics on 5G. We'll start first of all with what is 5G Advanced and the opportunities. Then we'll talk a bit about use cases and the industries that are specifically interested in 5G deployments. Then any technologies that go with 5G connectivity and increasing demand in AI, for example, IoT, AR, VR, even the metaverse and so on. A bit about private networks and then also covering the ecosystem and any challenges like return on investment and finally look at the future, touching briefly on 6G as well. So let me just start, whoever would like to go first. What's your view on 5G Advanced and where are you currently on the journey? Anyone would like to start on the panelist? Yes, please.
I can have a go. Hello, I'm from Tree UK, and if you don't know about Tree, we are the fourth largest operator in the UK, and we are also the fastest 5G network in the country. Right? So, as you can see, we have a lot of focus on 5G. We started our 5G journey on a very bullish note. We have the largest C-band spectrum. We acquired the largest C-band spectrum on the side to offer the differential 5G service to our customers. And on the back of it, we also launch our FWA proposition, okay? Because Tree's business model is mainly consumer-centric. So we focus on our consumers, on our customers. They are our key. And unfortunately, as you can see with all the telecom operators, there's always a pressure on the cost. So that has also impacted Tree as well, and which means that we also now have to focus on bringing some efficiencies, right? And I believe that 5G Advanced will help us in bringing some of those efficiency, especially around the energy savings features, which we are already implementing in our network by collaborating with our partners, and other sustainability kind of initiatives.
And any comments from the other panelists, maybe Sandeep as well, about how we see 5G Advanced? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, maybe I can go ahead. Sure. So, thank you. So I am Anania Mesfin from Ethio Telecom. So I came straight from Africa, East Africa. So I think I'm the only panelist from Africa, I think so. So we have currently deployed this 5G technology in Ethiopia. So like 1 year and some months ago, so back in September 2023. So now it's 2024. So I think we have quite a good knowledge and quite a good advancement in 5G technologies. So we are currently partnering with other telecom service vendors. So this 5G technology will give us lots of benefits in the industries and also like for the agricultural market and the health care environment. So it's going to be quite useful. So specifically talking about the 5G Advanced. So 5G Advanced, as Ankush said, so 5G Advanced will be very helpful for the energy sector as well as for the medicine sector. In fact, because of its very low latency 'and its capability in delivering like large amount of data, specifically if we are transmitting video information of 8K or more than like 16K video. So it's going to be very large in size. And if we are particularly applying or like using it in a resource intensive as well as like in a critical business case, so 5G advanced will be very helpful for the industry.
So how about Virgin Media O2? Is that similar, or you have like a different opportunity there?
No, I think, so I'd say probably more closer to some of the experiences from 3 as well. So yeah, Sandeep, Raithatha, good to be back again after the break. So yeah, as O2, which then turned into Virgin Media O2, we launched our O2 5G network back in 2020, and now about 50% population coverage, and obviously they're continuing to develop that. And then of course, our position of 5G Advanced as well. So you heard me talk about that example of 5G Advanced, which was actually before we officially launched the network. And the 5G Advanced network was launched in February. And so to date, we've reached coverage in 14 towns and cities across the UK. And of course, that will continue to grow. So definitely see the value in 5G and 5G standalone. For me, as I'm also from the business division, definitely think the value and the return of 5G standalone will come from those business use cases, especially where there is those requirements for lower latency, some of that guaranteed bandwidth. And then maybe eventually there might be some more global consumer opportunities. But in the UK, I think especially it's going to be B2B driven, where the value will come from.
And how's Sweden for Tele2? Is that similar, or do you see any other use cases? Feel free to share some industry cases in a bit more detail as well.
I'm impressed on the way we are exploring 5G Advanced, because there was 3G Advanced, there was 2G Advanced, which was called Edge, 3G Advanced called HSPA, 4G Advanced called LTE Advanced or Advanced LTE, correct?
Yes.
So, but 5G brings something which is new or newer. Like you say, Sandeep, it is the business-driven automation is possible now, which means we can help businesses and societies to go up to the next level. And that is what 5G can bring, because we are much closer to the real time. Latency drops, throughput is extremely high, energy consumption is continuously being tackled with AI as well. So I believe the opportunities are finally opening up. It's a mega platform for industrial automation.
Yeah, but it comes with its own challenges, right? I mean, first of all, we don't always need 5G. We mentioned energy consumption, and also the network good enough, it's robust enough. I mean, especially let's say if IoT devices move around from one network to another, do you need private networks and so on? Any thoughts on that, where we are with that, especially relating to AI and IoT maybe as well?
Yeah, happy to go. So I'm going to keep swiveling the mic, so hopefully we'll keep it right. So yeah, for IoT, it's definitely a good point, because when you think about IoT and how long IoT has taken to scale, a lot of the IoT connected devices are now all connected on 4G, right? Whether you have narrowband IoT or LTM, which are great network technologies that are being rolled out, and we've done that in the UK as well. And to your point, 5G, there'll be capabilities like 5G reduced capacity and others. But in reality, what's been the challenge in driving the adoption of 5G, 4G and IoT has also been the devices, right? And having those endpoints, those sensors that are actually 4G enabled. So I think we're still on a journey when you think about 5G and IoT and getting IoT devices enabled, because not many of them are. And that's probably one of the challenges why you're not seeing the market flooded with true end-to-end 5G advanced use cases, because you don't have all the endpoints, and it's probably our role as an industry to drive that wider ecosystem, right? Drive the devices, the partners, and encourage them to start to use the latest standards and technology as well.
Yeah, it sounds like we're a bit ahead of the market here, right? I mean, do you agree? Is that the main challenge, that it's probably not well understood within certain organizations that you need 5G, or in some cases it's simply not the best option for the customer?
It actually depends based upon the specific industry application that we apply the 5G technology on. So, for instance, like if you are text messaging or like video calling with a relative of yours, like maybe 4G is enough or 3G is enough. So, but specifically if we are working on like something like critical, like telemedicine and other, like for instance, like we have tried to check the mining industry. So like back in Ethiopia, like we have lots of mining areas, but those mining areas get like most of the time face landslides and lots of people die. So we were thinking about what if we just equip those mining environment like vehicles with 5G technology, and what if the truck driver or like the vehicle driver can be located elsewhere and driving it from somewhere else. Like we can use the power of 5G and we can use cameras on those vehicles. So the video recorded from those vehicles will be transmitted via the 5G network, and the driver will be driving those vehicles from elsewhere. So this kind of applications are like the major points that we have to use 5G for. So if we are using the packet communication technology for luxurious applications, for instance, like texting, maybe 3G is enough, not only 4G, not only 5G, maybe 3G is enough, so that's it.
Any other use cases that you'd like to highlight here?
I was going to build on the point, your initial question. It's probably worth testing with the room. How many people really understand the difference between 5G and 5G Advanced? Because when you think about when you're talking to your enterprise customers, many will be none the wiser, right? And even here, does everyone really understand? Because many will be from the tech, the SI industry, the other partners. You know, they probably won't need the subtle differences, right, between having a 5G network which uses a 4G core to then having a true 5G end-to-end network. So a lot of it is around the education is not there, and many people probably don't need to even be educated on it, because it's all about what is the solution or the problem that enables the 5G Advanced, whether it's the low latency, the high bandwidth applications, and then starting with those, because there is still a lot of misunderstanding. But I'm going to let you go on as well.
No, thank you, Sandeep. I would say that examples, so one example in Sweden, what we have is air forestry. We do thinning of the forest. Now for that, the drones are the size almost 6 meters wide. So that's a pretty large drone. And to be very accurate and reliable, you almost need a dedicated private network to be able to do the thinning, which is very reliable and timely. And that is where 5G comes very, very handy, because the latency throughput is very suitable for that. Electric boards, manufacturing electric boards and having IoT in them with 5G is really important. So there are many use cases, but you're very right that what does it need? You need a base 5G, but then you need a core which can do slicing. You need a core which can do, and beyond the core, you need the BSS and OSS layer. So you can do provisioning as well. So I think that is the way you have to see the stack. And I think the possibilities are endless, but there is an education which needs to be there, because we'll need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate our customers as well together. We have to learn together how to solve the business problems.
But does it have to be a private network? I mean, private networks been a hot topic, but also a bit overhyped recently. I mean, in many cases, public network perfectly sufficient, or there are some hybrid solutions as well. Any views on why we do or don't need a private network?
I think Sandeep already talked extensively on the use cases around the private 5G networks, right? So I'm not going to repeat that, but I think Yogesh brought up a very important point about network slicing, okay? When we move into the 5G SA kind of a core architecture, then what it will enable is to offer differential services to our customers, especially for a consumer-centric business like Tree. Even from the enterprise perspective also, you can offer premium services at premium rates to the enterprises. And that will be a very key revenue channel for the operator's perspective. as well as a quality of differentiator from the customer perspective. So something to look forward to.
And maybe the way I think about it is, as you said, it's a great question. I don't think private network is there to solve every single problem. And there's probably three scenarios. You have the private network with all those examples I shared. So it's dedicated for an airport that needs to operate 24/7 and needs that resilience and that control, right? It makes sense to have a dedicated private network there, or maybe a port that's taking in all those shipping containers. But then let's say you have an energy, we're just talking outside about energy and substations, you're going to have thousands of those spread across the country. Really, you're not going to be able to build all those private networks because the total cost of ownership is going to be so high. So in that case, you might want a hybrid private network or a network slice where you can leverage the mobile core and then have lots of sites around. So it does really depend on the footprint of the environment that you want to provide that amazing connectivity to, the types of use cases and solutions, right? And also some of it comes down to the ROI and the investment, because with network slicing, there is less footprint. You can get it enabled once it's here very quickly. And so, it could work great for broadcasting. It could work great if there's a temporary event and you need to provide some connectivity for the tills and the payment. So it is picking those verticals, those requirements, and then the period of time you need it for as well.
Yeah, let's focus a bit more on the challenges here as well. I mean, like, the ROI is a major challenge. I mean, especially if you build a private network or even the public 5G network in the first place. How long does it take to get a reasonable ROI? How do you measure it? And question also, I mean, who's funding it? What about the ecosystem? Do you have any government initiatives and so on? Is that a major challenge still, or are 5G networks already being built in most metro areas at least, right?
Well, I think we have to think beyond metro. I think we have to think nationwide 5G. And I think we have to look into models of network sharing. We have to look into models of infrastructure sharing. Because at the end of the day, we want to go deep and wide with the coverage so that we can cover as many use cases as possible with the macro, with slicing, with APIs of video on demand, and then private where it is absolutely needed. But in order to make it affordable and have a good CAPEX efficiency and OPEX efficiency, energy consumption, sharing will become a very important tool going forward. And if not now, already.
So specifically talking about the ROI or return on investment. So I think, or my advice is first, if a country or a telecom service provider is introducing 5G to a country, so first, my advice is first, if they go in non-standalone manner, so using the 4G core and the 5G antennas, and then if the users of those 5G network get bigger and bigger, so they can build the 5G core so that the 5G network will be in 5G. And the next thing is spectrum allocation. So if they use a bigger spectrum or bigger frequency, so the bigger the frequency, the shorter the distance, so they have to deploy more antennas, so here and there, so which is going to be quite an investment. So the return on investment will be very big. So using smaller frequency. So for instance, back in Ethiopia, we've used 3.6 gigahertz frequency. So we are currently using the 4G towers and then using 5G antennas on 4G towers. So, and sometimes we are deploying 5G dependent cells. So these two specific use cases can be an inputs for less return on investment, and through time we are working on densification of these 5G cells.
I think we are already 20 minutes into our discussion and we are missing the buzzword, AI, right? So when it comes to the 5G advance, we need to take into consideration the contribution that AI is going to make, or AI is already making, into improving our customer experience, as well as bringing efficiencies in operations and bringing automation into the network operations as well. For example, if you look at the press, we recently, so last since the war has started, there has been a pressure from the energy consumption perspective, right? And matter strategy has also, initially the strategy was more manual strategy, switch off the towers during the off-peak hours and so on. But recently we have collaborated with Ericsson, and they have brought AI into the operations to bring the tower into the power consumption lower when the site is not so busy, okay? Irrespective of the day of the time of the day. So that kind of, automation use cases we are able to implement because of AI, because of machine learning algorithms that we have deployed on our network. I think that's way, we should be seeing AI bringing automation, improving the customer experience and so on.
So would you say AI is something that also helps you manage the network better and consumption? So not just the AI-driven use cases, and now we've got Gen AI as well, all types of new applications that may also require 5G, but it's for your own use case as well, right, within your...
Indeed, yes. So AI is not just for monetization use cases, but it is also to manage the network better and improve the customer experience.
Are there any other challenges there when you work with some of these partners? I mean, you mentioned Ericsson, and what about some of the system integrators, even some hyperscalers you might work with as part of the ecosystem? Are there any major challenges when you have to work with them, or some kind of competition within your ecosystem?
That's a good point. What I can just share is, I think one of the challenges we should not overlook on is our own skill set in the organization. We have to, because this is moving towards B to B to C. This is moving B to B to X. And how do we do that? And in that, it's an ecosystem play. Collaboration is critical with the partners and with the ecosystem. And so when we think about ROI, when we think about longevity of investments, when we think about the skills in AI, we have to look at our skills in the organization and lift up those skills and reskill and upskill. So I think that is one of the challenges we should not overlook. I think it's important.
So would you say more of a technology-related challenge as well? Technology is moving so fast, you have to constantly be on top with your skills, and if you can't, you have to bring in some partner, and that comes with new challenges, obviously.
Absolutely.
Then again, the question is, it's not just about the skills, it's how you address it. Do you do any joint go-to-market? Would you do that with some partner where you're leading, or you're being even led by another partner?
Well, I think we have to rely on mutual strengths. I think Sandeep had a great, I was listening in when you were speaking that when you select a partner would display some strengths too. And as long as both parties acknowledge each other's strengths, or all the three parties, I think that is where the ecosystem will thrive. I'll let you.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think we'll be, as an industry, and looking at how successful or not we've been with 5G today, it is all about partnerships, right? Because as you said, technology is evolving so fast. We could all try and become those techcos, but that's going to take time. So in reality, you need those partnerships. And to Yogesh's point, it's all about creating that win-win, right? So how can you both create value, and you've got to sustain that partnership, right? If you're going to continue to invest, how do you create something that both will benefit over a period of time? And in reality, it's multiple partnerships. At Virgin Media O2, we're working with multiple channels, through our parent companies like Telefonica and Telefonica Tech as well, to serve customers with our private network offering. So it doesn't just have to be going direct to market. It could be enabling multiple partners to sell and provide your network on top, and they can provide the value on top. So I think you have to be fairly open and collaborative, because you won't see the scale or the ROI otherwise. So.
But isn't the challenge also that, you're network providers, but you don't want to be limited to just being that provider. You want to advance on other fronts, like consulting, integration, to all types of managed services on top, even, let's say, app development and so on. Isn't that the challenge as well, that with 5G, you can collaborate with partners, but ideally you want to build some kind of model for at least a few industries? Any comments on how you work with partners in that sense, or also what type of industry expertise you actually need?
I think in the previous panel, in one of the panels, we heard one of the telcos or one of the fiber providers are actually, becoming a energy broker as well, right? That's a quite surprising use case. But I think, telcos need to find ways to monetize. Just cannot sell connectivity as a service anymore, and need to offer digital services to the consumers and the enterprises. And all the skills, telcos are essentially network-centric people, so we don't have all the skills, and for that we need to build an ecosystem of partners to build those services and offer those services as well.
Yeah, and I'd add maybe in the B2B space as well, right? As to your point, you're not selling, SIM cards or fixed connectivity at fixed prices to your procurement person. It is a consultative selling exercise, right? So even at Virgin Media 2, we built a private network business development team. They've come out from non-industry, right? So they're not from telco, but they're from different sectors. And so it is much more around having that a collaborative approach with the customer and talking to them about the problems and then leading in with the technology after. And so less transactional, more consultative. And then having some domain expertise where you can, because you've got to talk that customer's language as well, right? Which as most operators, we're often not going to be able to understand, the day-to-day operations of a hospital and how to save, how to improve, patient outcomes, or how to, as I was sharing earlier, we're not going to know the details of how to produce sugar better. So, you need industry experts that will often help you understand certain processes and environments as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's also move on to, where the technology is going. I mean, we nearly named this session 6G, but we settled on 5G advanced, but we all know 6G is coming. What's your expectation? Is it already happening bit by bit? When do you expect some form of 6G to take off, and in what form?
It's a great question. I would say it'd be challenging if it was a 6G panel. I would say we've got to, as an industry, we've got to make 5G work, right? So I think everyone's saying 6G, the standards are in development, and many operators are working through shaping that up bring that through into early 2030. But in reality, we need to see the value and the return of our 5G investment to then confidently have those conversations to unlock the investment to enable 6G. And so for me, the priority in the next couple of years is demonstrate that value. Otherwise, I think when you look back at it, we've just missed that whole generation where there was a lot of excitement at the beginning in 2019, 2020, but where is that tangible ROI? Has there been that ROI? And I think we've got to deliver that before opening the conversation around scaling 6G as well.
I agree. I think, our technology is changing very rapidly these days, because if you look at 3G, it stayed for quite a decade or so, right? Then 4G came, and immediately, we have 5G as well, maybe 4 or 5 after the 4G launch. And now we are already starting to talk about 6G without realizing the full potential of 5G. I believe that, as long as 6G, I'm not very expert on the 6G, but as long as there's not much of an investment option on the 6G, then probably it will be adopted quickly, because already the telecom operators have invested heavily on 5G. So I'm not very sure whether they're having the cash reserve to do another major upgrade for 6G. So I think the focus should be on realizing the value of 5G, as Sandeep also mentioned.
So you're all very cautious about 6G. I mean, I've heard like 2030 or beyond might be a good time for 6G adoption. Is that something you're aiming for, or not yet?
Well, I think we should break the question a little bit further. What is 6G, which is in design or in R&D? I think we are talking about cloud native from a point of view that you can have APIs, you can have compute, you can have storage, number one. We are talking about much more higher speeds and much lower latency. We are talking about multi-faceted connectivity where the variables and IoT and all the connects come together. So it's very immersive experience. Now, there are a couple of fundamentals which will remain. And I think we should make sure when we roll out 5G, those fundamentals are there, which one is that can we roll out 5G throughout the nations in an affordable manner while keeping the efficiency really very high. Second fundamental is data, if used in 5G end to end with AI, is definitely going to help in the evolution of technologies. The third fundamental is the core network should be able to distribute resources in a very sequential manner, automated manner, self-healing manner, timely manner. And I think that means automation to a great degree with provisioning. So these fundamentals, as long as we adopt, as we are rolling out 5G, we will be ready for the new tech, which is going to be in the next period. And that's the way we think.
Yes, exactly. So previously you have even asked us, isn't 5G overhyped? So like talking about 6G while asking is 5G overhyped is kind of luxurious. So first we have to use 5G and also 5G advanced. So until we can get what we can get out of it, then we can move to the next generation, which is 6G. But talking about 6G and what we can get from 6G and when are we going to go to 6G is kind of overhyped now.
Okay, I think we can all agree on that. And yeah, I think we can open up for any questions from the audience at this point.
Do you think that in the next year or two, when we hope to see progress with monetising 5G, the interest in 6G might suddenly pick up rather? Do you think at the moment it's just we're all going, oh God, not another G? Anybody?
Yeah, I'd say I think it'll still take longer because we really need to show that clearer ROI. I think there's lots we need to do on the monetization of 5G and deliver some more confidence on that before then the attention, especially from the business or you know the business divisions and the people more facing the product sides, will then push the 6G elements, right? Because there's still a long way to go. And as with 5G SA, many operators have still not launched it, right? Even in the UK. So there's a lot still to unlock on that, and a lot of investment actually needed to unlock that. And so that needs to get going first, and then maybe. But I think it'll be more than 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. It's I would say that it depends on how one is thinking about 5G. So 5G has a huge potential. I totally agree. Means when we talk about unlocking value, we should not only think about consumer, but we should think about enterprise. I think that is where APIs are going to really help unlock value nationwide. So I think that's number one. Retiring older technologies is going to be a part of that. 3G is not that good in energy consumption. Actually, it's detrimental. 2G is, while used in different devices, we have to think a world beyond. And then it becomes very clear, like if there is a digital economy coming completely in the society with AI in a secure manner, then we are creating a 5G potential, and then 6G becomes an evolution. Right now, I think we are thinking, okay, 5G, like just let us monetize, but we have to think through what to monetize with. And there are three areas. One is consumer propositions. Second one is a business proposal where every business can grow up. Third is APIs for developers to create societal digital ecosystems. And I think that's the way to think through, at least in my view.
I'm just wondering, with Sandeep, I think you hit a really good note there because I think the telecoms industry goes out selling technology. So, you know, whether it's WAP or 5G, that's what we evangelize. And actually, we like chatting to each other about this and we get very excited about new technology. But actually, the rest of the world is kind of much more interested in solving problems, and it doesn't care whether it's 5G or a hamster in a wheel generating electricity, really, as long as it works.
Indeed, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And even 6G, right? Nobody's thinking about
Whatever
it.
it
So
is,
yeah.
Sorry, I get passion opening. Anybody else got questions?
Yes, please.
There's a gentleman over there. Aha, it's Rob on duty now.
Yeah, okay. So I just have a follow-up question to what Annie just asked, and I think it's based on what you were saying now about the let's monetize 5G first. If it was up to you, do you feel like it's worth pushing back the rollout of 6G standards further down the line so you have time to sufficiently monetize the network? Because we've got 6 years until 2030, and then everyone's like, oh, you're going to have to roll out 6G. But that seems like a really short amount of time because now we're upgrading from the NSA model now. Well, many operators are anyway. So it really gives you a short amount of time to really get a return on investment. So I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the challenges, right? The whole global mobile operators are probably all looking inwards and working through the evolution. Of course, the operators maybe in the Far East are ahead, so they're already thinking a bit further through. But if you just look at it from the UK perspective, you're right. You know, we just launched 5G SA this year, right, in February. Just started doing some network slicing proof of concepts or trials. You really need to actually start to deploy that, maximize the capability and what it can do. And then from that, you'll start to see, so to the example of the network slicing and broadcasting, you know, once you reach those technology limitations of what you can do, you'll then start to identify what are the problems you need to solve for the next generation. But to your point, we've not even done enough of those deployments at scale to learn what is the limitations to then put into the next release from a business perspective, right? Or from a customer perspective. And the challenge is you're going to have lots of clever people sitting in a room writing those standards, already doing that, right? And how do you bring them together? Otherwise, you'll end up with a next generation, which will be also hard to monetize for the business people trying to do it. So yeah, I think we've got to break that cycle. Welcome ideas of how we're going to do that, but definitely.
Yeah, my view would be, I don't think one can stop the R&D. I think R&D is moving at its pace. But if you think about another G, to Annie's point, I think it's too much if you do not clean up the earlier Gs. So I would say that. I think we need to be very responsible as businesses to reform, because otherwise spectrum will just get locked, and that's not cool either.
Actually, what I want to know, and I've never really understood this, who generates the urgency? Who says we've got to have connected vehicles? Do you remember all the use cases, like when we first started about 5G? Remote surgery and connected vehicles, like what happened to all that? Not much. So who is it? I think Sandeep, you just said clever people sitting in rooms. I mean, who thinks it's suddenly urgent that, you know, for humankind to have this stuff?
Probably like the GSMA and industry organization, like the industry bodies, right? And then the R&D teams, often that will be thinking how to demonstrate the future. And as you said, in reality, they might be a little bit disconnected, right, from the real activity outside. So yeah, I think a lot of it is driven by the industry body, and rightly so. I think I've probably done a few connected vehicles, probably a smart ambulance I've done as well. Where are they now, and how many ambulances are really connected? I think there's lots we need to still do, right? So.
Is it partly government driven as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to the point here, yeah, that's a really good point. So, you know, I think it's been great. The government have been driving some of that. And the Department of Science, Information and Technology have released this £40 million innovation fund on 5G with 10 regions. So that should start to turn some of that into reality. But I think there's more investment or support needed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. Really.
It doesn't, no. So, yeah.
Okay, also, do we think that doing the NSA, going down the NSA route for the Olympics and Korea, which as far as I can see was one of the main drivers, do we think that was a mistake, really? Instead of, you know, the go faster stripes on 4G rather than full-blown 5G?
There's a bunch of
I think-
in there as well.
Sorry, but you know.
As long as you are able to deliver the experience to the customer, then it doesn't matter whether you are using SA or NSA as your underlying core infrastructure, okay? So 5G is all about the spectrum. If you're utilizing your C-band spectrum to provide that speed and reliability, then whether your SA will enable you as an operator to provide some differential services. But from a customer perspective, if you are providing the same experience with a SA with NSA, then it shouldn't matter much in my opinion. Although,
Ankush, I think that was a bit of a knockout answer, actually.
thank you.
Andreas, you're the formal moderator. Are you happy to go at the end of the session now?
Yeah, so I think we covered quite a few good points here, and also our view at Omdia confirmed it as well. I mean, we have a variety of use cases, and I think the most important is that we're no longer just limiting 5G to, let's say, certain industries. It's now across the board. It's all verticals are adopting it, and it's a lot with AI, less so with IoT, I have to say. I've written various IoT reports where the majority is still on 4G, and it's not expected to rise. And it's all down to also the ecosystem. I mean, question I've asked earlier, like, is it who's leading it? Can a telco lead it, or is the telco being led by, let's say, an integrator or someone else? And then, of course, all the other players, government and industry bodies and so on. So, I think we're on the route to, 6G, but slowly, step by step. 5G is also, it's still not there in some areas, but, it is being implemented, and in some cases, it's simply not needed. We have to, let's not forget, it's not about technology, it's about the business use case in the first place. So
Yes,
you're
depends
there
on-
to help the enterprise solve a problem rather than selling 5G.
Yes, exactly. So it depends upon the specific use case that we want to address. So one thing to add, like previously, Sandeep has mentioned the experience that the British sugar company using the private 5G. But back in Ethiopia, as I've shared you earlier, like we have been thinking about using the private 5G in mining sector, and we were thinking about like what kind of output that we are going to get. Like we need to discuss with somebody from telecom sector or like industry, like their experience or their testimonial, like what they faced and what's the pros and cons of having private 5G. And thank you, Sandeep, by the way, for sharing us that thought.
Okay, so what I'd like to do, and it might be virtual, and at least it'll say to you getting on a PowerPoint hours, but I think I'd like to reconvene this panel in, should we say a year or 18 months, and see what happens, and should we see what happens in the meantime?
Yeah, we're still in the telco industry. Yeah.
I know Betty's got a bad reputation recently in fighting, but everybody feels like I'm going to bet on what the outcome will be. Knock yourself out.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.